Most businesses today face two major marketing challenges. One, people are overloaded by information. We're talking about 4.5 billion pieces of new content every day. And two, people have much shorter attention spans and spend only about 8 seconds on anything before they jump onto the next thing. It's no wonder that companies are struggling to get their message heard. The result of poor marketing communications is that half of all new business ventures fail in their first 4 years, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. With this in mind, Visual Storytelling Institute co-founders Shlomi Ron and Alex Caravallo asked themselves, how can businesses connect more powerfully with audiences? Welcome to Visual Storytelling Today. This is your number one source for the latest and most effective business marketing strategies you can apply today to rise above the noise. From video and infographics to augmented and virtual reality, join us every month to meet notable visual storytellers and discover their marketing insights and stories. Here's your host, Shlomi Ron.
So hi, I'm Shlomi Ron. I'm the co-founder of the Visual Storytelling Institute, based here in sunny Miami, Florida. And a little bit about what we do. We help marketers like you rise above the communication noise with the personalized visual storytelling programs, so you can connect better with your audience, empower their lives, and also grow faster your company. So I'm sure you all have been reading latest news about Facebook changing their algorithm to play more emphasis on a personal relationship. So that brought all of a sudden the comparison to Instagram. So obviously different design approaches for two different platforms. So that Facebook on both platforms, which is kind of interesting. So for this show, I'd like to talk about Instagram and how marketers like yourself can take advantage. One thing that I came across as I did some research for this program, I wrote this article by the Alexis Madrigal at The Atlantic, and this is how we defined Instagram. Instagram does not pretend to be part of the public sphere. It is not the natural home for the resistance. It's a place for the Sunday's best version of your personal life to have space on the internet, which I really kind of like. And I think it's really kind of bring up the intimate side of Instagram. And Instagram, as you all know, has just passed the 800 million user point, which translates to basically 1 out of 3 US adults have an Instagram account today. So obviously marketers like you took notice, and 70.7% of US businesses today are using Instagram, and it's the first time they exceeded Twitter. So this is amazing news for those of you that are still on the fence line concerning Instagram. And for this, I have the great pleasure today to have a great friend, Julie Cabezas, and she's a co-founder at the Ideal Marketing Agency based here in South Florida. And Julie has loads of expertise transforming brands into what she calls little black dress brands on Instagram, which I really kind of like her definition. So with that, welcome to the Visual Storytelling Today show, Julie.
Thank you so much, Shlomi. I really appreciate your having me today.
Excellent. Yeah, no, I mean, we have been in touch on several programs. You attended our masterclass recently, so that's how we got to know each other. I think also I spoke at the Chamber of Commerce of Boca Raton, so we had a few interaction in those public spaces. So before we get started going down the path on Instagram, maybe let our audience get to know you better, and maybe tell us a little bit about your backstory, how you got started in marketing and in Instagram.
I would love to. Well, my background's actually in biomedical engineering. I went to the University of Miami and went into a very technical field. I started in cardiovascular guide wires, manufacturing them, and moved over to marketing when I started working with a fairly large startup company. It was in the robotics space and orthopedics. Oh, wow. And I worked on the marketing team in surgeon training and marketing. So my background's in engineering, marketing, and training. And, you know, what I started to realize when I worked there was the power of social media. In that space, direct-to-consumer marketing is something that's a little bit controversial, but outside of medical devices, there was so much happening with social media. And what I personally did was use LinkedIn to connect with people that it would never have known me otherwise. They would have never known that I existed. And they were so many people were so generous to connect with me and tell me about their experiences. And I started just interviewing executives about what their backgrounds were, how they got to where they were. So the thing that I really realized was that social media is all about access to people, access to brands. And I used this direct outreach strategy to build my network. And when my company was acquired, I was looking at what was I really passionate about going into next. And I saw the opportunity of social media in general for brands and businesses that were kind of operating without it, to add that to their marketing repertoire and to make such a different type of connection with their audience, because customers are looking for that type of access.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that sounds very interesting. It's almost reminds me of social selling in a way. You work doing the LinkedIn kind of interaction with the prospects and kind of going the path of sharing valuable information and then developing the relationship. So this is all great stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I looked deeper, I saw that the direct outreach piece was really powerful on LinkedIn. But what made Instagram stand out was that as a new brand, as an entrepreneur, I was able to connect with my customers a lot faster and easier using Instagram. So the way that LinkedIn worked with access to executives, Instagram kind of worked with access to brands. And it was very simple to build. We started out with in-person live social media workshops where we covered the top 5 platforms, which were Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Pinterest. But we were personally using Instagram to fill all of our workshop seats. We could post on Instagram and get 90 seats sold out for a free workshop in a matter of 15 or 20 minutes.
Oh, that's
we saw
incredible.
that the reach and the conversions were so much faster, and the connection that people were feeling to us and our brand was so much more powerful. So that's when we started to tailor and focus all of our attention on really niching down, because you could spend all day learning about just one social media platform and becoming really excellent, or you can kind of be a generalist. And we decided to go into the, very targeted focus of Instagram when it comes to the storytelling, which I know we'll talk about today.
Yeah, very smart move. And definitely I want to learn more about exactly, the dynamics of how you bring value to your clients using Instagram. But before we go down on that topic, we typically ask all our guests the same question. Since the Visual Storytelling Institute we basically operate as a visual marketing think tank, that we are spreading the gospel of visual storytelling that traditionally has roots in graphic design, filmmaking, entertainment, but not a whole lot of marketers still know about visual storytelling in the context of marketing. So, obviously, since you operated in this space for a while, how would you define visual storytelling from your perspective?
Well, I would say that visual storytelling is like the expression of the brand's personality when it comes to social media on social. So when you're telling a story, you're expressing it with a tone of voice, you have a visual presence, you have an aesthetic that you've designed for your brand, and you're telling the story of the customer to the customer. So it's the personality and the way that story is told that I see visual storytelling being so powerful on Instagram specifically.
Interesting. So from your perspective, you see the personal aspect of storytelling really as the main communication channel that makes a difference from the other traditional marketing types that have been used. Like if you look at print and direct marketing, storytelling has that personal aspect that create that bond.
Yeah, absolutely. Without a doubt.
Excellent. Yeah. So if we are looking now we got some information about visual storytelling. So when you want to kind of pitch your business to your clients, and what would your value proposition for Instagram would be like? And again, use this opportunity now, since we have marketers, entrepreneurs in our audience that might be sitting on the fence, not unsure if it's the right path. What would you say to them?
Well, I think that we operate in the landscape of social. So obviously, SEO and having a presence in different areas of the marketing landscape is still very valuable. But in terms of social specifically, I think that Instagram and other platforms that will arise that are similar to it are going to be the central channel of communication between a customer and its brand, the connection. Platforms like Facebook, each platform has its own culture. So Facebook is very focused on connecting you with your friends and family. Mm-hmm. And so that trip that your aunt or uncle just went on is very interesting to you on Facebook. That's the majority of what you want to see. And a lot of the businesses are now using interruption marketing to connect with businesses there. However, on Instagram, what people are really looking for is interesting brands, celebrities, and other people and businesses to connect with by filling their feeds kind of like a magazine. So they're curating their own magazine of different stories and interests and profiles that they want to see every single day. So I think that the shift towards Instagram is going to be ever increasing. Mm-hmm. And other platforms, I'm sure, will pop up that are similar. But right now, I feel like it has the strongest, the fastest growth, the best engagement, and the most direct connection, because that's what your customers actually asking for. They want you to send them stories every single day and content that's going to engage them on a daily basis. So I think Instagram is a really great place to put attention for 2018 if creating an engaged audience on social media is something that's a priority for your business.
Cool. And I'm sure some of the people that using Instagram, and some of them started using, or some of them, about to start, some of the stumbling blocks, at least like any social networks, is the issue of the followers. The number of followers is really like the major indicator of success. Is it quantity versus quality? Some people think there is a magic number of minimum followers that you got to have in order to get a critical mass of engagement. What would you say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that is a common misconception. I think that some brands will even fear looking too new when they go onto Instagram. And so they'll buy fake followers. And Instagram's algorithm will penalize you for that action, because they're going to measure the engagement rate on any one post against the number of followers you have to promote you in your feed. So in addition, people that are on Instagram are looking for authenticity. So when they see an account with 10,000 or 15, 20,000 followers and only 3 or 4 likes on a photo, they're spotting that out a lot quicker. So to answer your question about followers, I think that within any market, there are going to be a few major players on Instagram. The cool thing about it is the underdog or the new business can just as easily grow a following as the big guys right now, because it's still heavily based on organic engagement. Mm-hmm. So I would be looking to consistently see increasing followers month over month. The number is going to be directly related to whether or not you're doing ad spend and how much time you're spending engaging on the platform, as well as what types of hashtags you're using. But I think that the number of followers will ultimately measure relevancy of the brand in a certain market based on the conversations they're having there. In several industries I've looked, and the 2 major players that you would think of if you thought of that industry, one of them has 10 times the number of followers on Instagram that the other one might have. And that's just because of the quality of the storytelling that they're doing on the platform.
So in essence, what you're saying is that there's no magic number, but you're definitely looking for healthy growth from month to month of followers, just as part of your other indicators of success of the program. And
Absolutely.
We can talk about, KPIs later, but, don't be a stickler and just look at the followers, because it's just one piece of the picture.
Absolutely. And I love always referring back to that 1,000 true fans concept. That what you're looking for on Instagram, as soon as your brand goes online, communicate to those true fans that you have. They're going to jump on and they're going to help you spread your message for you as well.
Got it. Yeah. So you mentioned already that engagement is definitely a great business goal to aspire using Instagram. Mm-hmm. But are there any other business objectives that Instagram is really good at? And what I mean by that is that if you think about the buyer's journey, obviously awareness, brands is looking just to spread the word out. if they're launching a new product. Then obviously there is the mid-funnel where it's all about maybe educational, inspirational content. And then there's definitely down the funnel, the idea of closing the deal. How can you actually generate leads that actually you can monetize? And I guess at the really end of the funnel, we're talking about advocacy. How can you actually turn those happy customers to be your best storytellers? So I kind of lay out, a bunch of business objectives, but how would you say this translates to Instagram?
That's such a great question. I kind of think of it as bookends of the funnel. So it's definitely brand awareness. It's definitely getting your name out there. Yep. And in the middle of the funnel where you're doing some deeper education, especially if you have a technical product, that's going to happen off of Instagram. So we always say that the purpose of Instagram is finding new ideal customers and piquing their interest. They're going to see a beautiful hair product, or they're going to see something new about your brand that they've never thought about before, because they have an old perspective of maybe what your brand stood for 10 years ago. Then if they jump on Instagram and they see this innovative content, you're piquing their curiosity to go off of it and find out more. So I think some brands tend to over communicate on Instagram, where the real value is the inspiration piece, inspiring, entertaining, lightly educating them about the value of the product, but then getting them to go somewhere else and getting that information. And then the people that really fall in love with your brand, those are going to be your followers that stay with your brand for years and years following you. And they want that content every single day. Your brand advocates at the other end of the funnel are going to be the ones tagging their friends and saying, come look at this content, come, follow this brand. They're amazing. And that almost creates a circle that really grows the audience very quickly. So some brands have a misconception that they might not see as many website visits directly from Instagram. They might not see direct conversions, but what they're not realizing is 30% of people on Instagram have bought a product that they first discovered.
So this is what we call like a dark traffic that basically not documented anywhere.
I can tell you 10 brands right now that I follow on Instagram that have already decided to buy their products. I'm past the decision-making phase. I just haven't gone on and swiped my credit card yet. Maybe it's not the right time. It's seasonal. I'm waiting to get something else before I'm going to buy that product. So I hate to say the word top of mind, but they want to see content from you every single day. And that's the difference from an ad.
I see. So to kind of summarize, in essence, what you're saying is that Instagram really shines at the top and in the really bottom of the funnel. So it's really about creating the brand awareness if you're starting something new. And of course, once you have happy customers, they are the best ones to actually continue evangelizing your story. And that's really what you should focus on if you're considering starting with Instagram, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Excellent. So now that we have we're still in the planning stage, we got our business objective in place. Now you got me convinced. Yes, I want to start. So can you give us, I know kind of at least high level, what the process would look like for creating an effective Instagram storytelling program? What are the key platform features people should focus on when they start? Any kind of suggestions?
Absolutely. So I'll combine it with a story of one of my favorite companies on Instagram. One of the brands that is really creating a buzz on Instagram, and that's a brand called Lokai. So the Lokai bracelet is a really interesting business and brand story.
Yep.
The bracelet's a simple silicone bracelet with beads around, but the founder of the company, one of his relatives was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And he felt that in that same moment where he felt so sad about that experience, he also felt an expansion of the joy that he had all these great memories with this relative of his. So he realized, coined this term that says, stay humble, stay hopeful. And it's kind of the juxtaposition of the highest moments in your life and the lowest moments. So he built this brand story into a product, which is the bracelet contains a drop of water from the highest peak of Mount Everest and a dot of mud from the Dead Sea, which they think is the lowest place on earth. And the whole Instagram's content plan is issued from that brand story. So there's a little bit of a misconception where some brands they're trying to make their product look cool, look appealing. Their goal is to get people to buy their product. That's always our goal in business, revenue. But on Instagram, the actual content is an art form. So the goal is you want to ask yourself the question, what worldview does my company want to express to people? And how is that inspiring? Who is that going to inspire? And what kind of content is that going to translate into? So the key features on Instagram platform that you want to focus on are the photos, the captions, and the stories. Stories are 15-second video clips.
Right.
So in the feed, your feed is the list of the photos that you're going to see in timeline order that are of the companies that you are following. That's called your feed. It's not exactly in chronological order anymore, but there is a time factor. So in that feed, photos perform better than video. So you want to focus that feed on great photos that are telling.
It's important to know that. I didn't know that photos perform better than videos.
They do. They perform better than video. So people are not really looking to watch video in their feed because Instagram users love the experience of scrolling fast. They want to see a photo, awesome, like it, keep on going. Instead of stopping for 2 minutes, that kind of interrupts their flow of looking at their video photos. So you want to focus on the photo. The photo leads the story. The photo is everything on Instagram. We say the photos get likes, captions convert. But what that means, if the photo doesn't lead and doesn't inspire, then the caption's not going to take you anywhere. So you want to express your brand story, your visual story in photos, and then you want to follow with the caption that gives a little more meat detail to the story or makes the person look deeper at the photo. The second component is the story.
Good question. What about, still on the caption before we move on, but what about the links? Since obviously Instagram doesn't offer you links other than your bio link. What would be your linking strategy?
That's a great question. So it depends heavily on what your goal is. If your goal is email opt-ins, for example, then you're going to be referring people to the link in your bio. And I would recommend having that link just be the one opt-in you're focusing on. You don't want to consistently change the link in your bio because it confuses people. Some people on Instagram think that if they see something cool, they'll say, "Oh, I'll go back to that link tomorrow." Right. But you don't want to change that every single day. Maybe once a month, maybe once a quarter. But in general, if you want email opt-ins, you're going to be referring to click the link in your bio and giving creative calls to action to get to that link. Some companies.
That's a great tip. Basically, you're saying sending people to maybe a landing page to capture email addresses or just a contact information page.
Right. Something, and they're expecting a gift. So people love on Instagram to stay on the platform. They have a little sequence on their phone. They'll open their phone, check their email, and they're going to hop to Facebook, scroll, click out of that, go to Instagram, spend 5 to 10 minutes scrolling, and then they're leaving the platform. But it's going to have to be something very enticing to get them to jump off the platform.
Right.
So in order to capture that email, you want it to be a really enticing gift, like like some kind of a video series or some kind of a behind the scenes, a challenge, a giveaway, something along those lines.
So it's like a gated asset that you're sending them, but in order to get it, they need to register.
Right.
I see. And that's how you capture email addresses. That's interesting. Right. One thing about stories that I'm kind of also curious is that it's kind of, they kind of stole it from my Snapchat, but I think, one of the things that I'm kind of still try to understand is obviously the engagement with stories is a little bit cryptic because, either you just get a longer list of people who viewed your story, but there's no way for you to interact with them. I mean, for the most part, I haven't seen anybody, really kind of developing a dialogue as a result of viewing a story. What would you take about engagement on stories?
I totally agree. It's interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see where it goes.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in general, telling a story with video is just a different multimedia experience.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of place for creativity. It's only a 15-second clip, which is also very cryptic.
Right.
I've seen a lot more engagement on my stories as opposed to Instagram lives. I think you have to get to the point very quickly with an Instagram live, which is a continuous video that's then posted as a story, essentially.
Right.
So the 15-second videos, the great thing about them is if you have over 10,000 followers, you can have your audience swipe up. So the
the link
on a video is a lot better because
Right.
it's simply less clicks.
Yep.
On a post, you have to click their link bio, scroll to the top, click the
Yep.
link, and it's different experience than I like this video, swipe up really fast to see something. And there's a nice little X button where you can go right back into the feed.
Absolutely.
So I think it's a space for creativity. It's still something that I'm collaborating with video experts like you to look into that more. Right now, I say try to use it on a weekly basis to give
Mm-hmm.
your audience behind the scenes. And especially if you're a personal brand or you want to have a voice to your brand, maybe you have customers or brand managers to jump on there and give an experience or a talk. It's very good for the customer to hear your voice and to look into your eyes and see that experience. So for personal brands, I love telling them get on stories every week.
That's a great advice. Yeah, because obviously it's kind of a new terrain. And I think the more you experiment and the stories offers a wide range of features, these overlaid graphic elements that you can add to it and create really the classic setting conflict resolution story structure right there. So it's a great platform for a great canvas for this. You
can also introduce a lot of surprise. So you can have something and then the next clip can be very surprising, make the customer laugh. So there's a lot you can do with the video side of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you've been at this point have been working with lots of marketers and talked to a lot of people that are considering Instagram, and I'm sure you're also reading a lot what the industry is doing. So what would you say are the top challenges that our marketers are currently facing when using Instagram today? Some misconceptions maybe.
Mm-hmm. The biggest one is that the purpose of Instagram is to really produce creative work from the brand. So imagine if your advertising team didn't have to include a product in their ads, they would get really creative with how they could entertain and educate their audience. So yes, of course, the product has to be part of the story, but really the focus is the brand's art form. And that can be wacky, it can be weird, it can be very elegant, it can be playful. It just engages the audience at such a different level because they're looking for creative forms of art. So I feel like Target does a really great job. They're engaging their audience at a deeper level with very creative posts. Some of the bigger beauty brands are coming up with really engaging ways to take you behind the scenes. Fashion brands are bringing you back behind the runway, giving you access to stars and celebrities that you would have never thought about before. So the art form can really be anything. It can be very creative and very much tangential to what you would typically put on TV or in a print ad. And by prioritizing the art above the promotion of the product, you're going to create that bond that makes your customers and your audience really see, wow, this is where I want to shop because this brand shares my worldview.
And speaking about the art form, do you see any kind of because I know there's a lot of social media strategies talks about the 80-20 rule, and some talk about that basically 80% of the time you just talk about non-brand related stuff, more lifestyle. And then the 20% you talk about brand focused, you show the product. It's very kind of focused on your business objective. And another philosophy is that, your content strategy is typically comprised of what you call a lifestyle, inspirational, educational. Do you find those, what is your suggested content strategy for Instagram in general? I know it's customized per brand, but in general, do you have any kind of philosophy you're following?
Well, it's funny because some of the most successful brands like Live Loci, their product is in every photo on Instagram.
Mm.
There's another one that I think of called Frank Body, and they sell a coffee scrub, and their product is in almost every single Instagram post. But because the lifestyle element is so strong and the posts are so entertaining, the product fits seamlessly. It's not an ad where you're holding it like this, necessarily.
Right.
It's a lifestyle where the person's experiencing the joy or that transformation that they were looking for, and the product is still present. So for non-marketers, I typically do say 80-20 because they're not so fine-tuned with the lifestyle piece of it. But for marketers, I say try to make it as seamless as possible and make the lifestyle at the forefront of every post, and then see how much you can push the limits in terms of integrating your product in the photos.
Got it. All right. So far we went through a very interesting path, from planning, from talking about the content strategy, some of the stumbling blocks and how to overcome them. And obviously at the end of the day, like any marketer, especially if you work in the corporate side, you need to report your success to your line manager, right? So what is the typical KPIs or metrics that you use as targets in your programs?
Well, definitely we're tracking followers. So we're tracking an increase in followers month over month. I would say that this, from a very small brand, expecting 10 to 50 new followers a day with great strategy is like the norm. Right. You can go more and you can go less. You can become viral and go a lot more. But you're going to see a steady increase in followers consistently. Okay. Your likes are going to go up and down on a daily basis. One post you might have 5,000 likes. The next post you might have 1,000. And it's a fluctuation. I think it's the algorithm promoting your photos a little bit more, a little bit less on different days. And also they measure the speed at which people like it from the moment you post. That may change. And a lot's changing right now about how posts are promoted. But you're definitely tracking your increase in followers. I like to track average likes and comments on a monthly basis. So over all the posts I did, is my average increasing? And then I look at what are my most popular posts. Typically, brands will see that a certain type of post performs well every single time, and that's their home run type of post. They don't want to necessarily repeat that every single day because followers, then the good stuff gets old. So they'll still keep it 2 or 3 times a week for the great post, and then they'll fill with other posts that try to get closer to that. But the best performing posts. And then I also like to track link clicks, which is available in insights behind the scenes of your Instagram account. And if you're doing advertising, of course, you're going to be tracking the conversions of your ads, the click-through rates, et cetera, for those. But that's basically what you're clicking. You're tracking the followers, the engagement, and the traffic. Interesting.
And do you use any analytics tools, or are you just focusing on the insights that Instagram provide?
Right now, I'm just focusing on the insights. I think when you use different tools, you're going to get different numbers, and the numbers might not always match up with insights because the other tools are just slightly less accurate. I find that is going to be enough right now because I'm trying to measure audience engagement. And my whole focus on Instagram is just improving that art, refining the eye for that Instagram style art, and measuring what my audience is looking for and is engaging with. It's definitely the long game. It's something that is going to be built. If you were to dedicate a full year, I think you would see some really nice results. But quarter by quarter, you're going to see big gains. The first quarter, you might say, oh, this is starting off slow, but then it's going to build quarter over quarter as you start engaging influencers and improving your hashtag strategy. And it's really, really valuable for communicating key brand initiatives. So people are, a great majority of your most engaged followers are really aware of what you're doing. They're going to know. They're going to tell you, oh, I saw that on Instagram that you're running that.
I see. So basically, don't expect an overnight spike in your cash register. It's going to take you at least 6 months to build your audience and create traction. That's interesting. One thing you mentioned also that kind of caught my attention was hashtags. We didn't talk much about hashtag strategy. I know that some people recommend using the caption, the comment section versus kind of, creating busy caption.
Mm-hmm.
What is your suggestion for hashtag strategy on Instagram?
I think that when Instagram was born, they used a very linear type of strategy where if you posted a hashtag, if you added a hashtag to your post, you were going to see that post in the hashtag list upon searching it. And it was a reverse chronological order, with that top 9 being the post with the best engagement. I think as the platform is becoming so popular and so widely used, they're having to figure out a different way to really promote the best types of content. I like to think it as remember Stumble Upon, that website where
definitely.
you could, discover new things. I would say almost half of an Instagram user's time, the average user, is spent trying to discover new and cool things. Mm-hmm. So the hashtag being efficient and effective in the way that they set up that algorithm is really important. So right now, the current, best practices is to use all 30 hashtags, to put them in the first caption below your post, as you mentioned, and to use
in the comments. You mean
in the comments? Yes, I'm sorry.
And you can fit 30 hashtags in a comment.
You still can fit 30 hashtags. I've heard rumors that that's changing, and that
because
the
I
reason
tried
people are. Oh, you did?
Yeah, and I had to split it into 2, but then they didn't accept my second comment. So
it's changing. It's changing rapidly. So I have heard that this is going away. That they're not going to allow the 30 in the comment anymore, because what they've for most of the tags over the past the past 30 days, they've started splitting the hashtags by top and by recent. So now the best hashtags on Instagram actually have 2 feeds, top and recent. So it's no longer top 9. There's a whole feed, an endless feed of top, and you can click over to recent and see them in reverse chronological order. So now you have way more opportunity to get exposure if you hit the top section. And that's I think what they want to do is they don't want people having to use extremely niche tags if you have a great account. For example, if you're a great social media marketer and you use the hashtag social media marketing, they want you to show up on that top tab instead of just getting 10 minutes of fame on the top 9, and then you're buried and your post doesn't matter anymore.
Right. And do you normally recommend your clients using a specific set of hashtags, or, should they use, I know there's a bunch of external tools that allows you to kind of grab, the most popular ones and constantly refresh your list, pair the photo or the asset you are posting?
Well, we're really staying on top of it, because there are changes literally happening right now. So my advice today may not be good a week from now.
Sure.
But what we're recommending right now is that people are looking at niche hashtags that are less than 1 million instances. For example, the post frequency is less than 1 million, so that you have longer to stay in that top 9, so that when people search the tag, they're only scrolling for less than a minute to find your post in that feed, to increase the chances that you're going to be discovered.
And the top 9 that you're talking about, this is under the top feed?
That's with the old feed. So about half the hashtags still have that old top 9. And they're the ones that are still working on the old algorithm. But it's really changing. I think what we're moving toward, if I had to predict, is that hashtags are going to use the most relevant hashtags, for the post, and only tags that are really truly relevant. Like if you use the tag yellow sweater and you don't have a yellow sweater on in that post, I don't think that hashtag is going to apply in the future. Yeah, but we're still trying to figure that out.
Absolutely. And there's also, I think, kind of a delicate balance between, describing the things that are in your photo versus your business objective. Is it really related to your target audience? I mean, yellow sweater, for example, we don't know if you're related sometimes, so it's like the descriptive and the goal should be
it's a great
aligned.
What is someone going to enter into that search to find you? Those are the only tags you should be using.
Exactly. Very cool. So, when you look at, obviously things are changing really fast at Instagram. They are constantly introducing new features, changing things. But if you today need to predict the future of Instagram storytelling for the audience that's listening or watching us, what would you say?
Well, I would say that Instagram is the future of brand connection on social. Absolutely. It's already the leader in terms of building brand connection. And secondarily, I think it's going to be the future of publishing as well. I think that there's fewer and fewer people that are actually buying print magazines. And the purpose of Instagram really is to curate a magazine type of feed. You want to see ads, you want to see articles, you want to see interest stories, and you want to see celebrities. So you're basically curating your own feed, but by following certain accounts, there are those sub feeds there. So I think the publishing industry is going to be turning much more visual. Longer form posts on Instagram, I think, will become more interesting to people. And I think that it's going to be very important for brand connection.
No, excellent. Yeah, I think supporting what you just said, I just came across interesting research from the University of Oregon from 2016, and they found that the use of image-based platforms like Instagram and Snapchat was associated with lower levels of loneliness among users, higher levels of happiness and satisfaction, while text-based platforms like Facebook and Twitter had no correlation whatsoever. So it's kind of interesting also to see it from that perspective, that people feel happy when they use visual-based platforms.
I agree. I think I've seen multiple articles that say that Twitter is in general seen as the most negative platform. Overall, the general sentiment of the content is more negative. Facebook might be more neutral, and then Instagram is more of the happy place online. So they say if they want to have good vibes, if they want to go and be inspired, they're going to Instagram. And I think that's a great place for brands to be.
Absolutely. So just to kind of summarize it, everything that we talked, if we can distill it to what are your top 3 tips for marketers that now are absolutely, you got them convinced today that they'd like to start spending some time on Instagram, what would you say is the top 3 tips?
My top 3 tips. The first one I would say is do your research regarding brands that are really engaging their audiences. And I think that looking for brands that are creating really engaged audiences, look outside your industry. Don't just compare to your competitors, but look for those brands that are really bringing a creative and fresh look to their content, that are really storytelling really, really well, that are using user-generated content.
Right.
Tip number 2 would be to really refine your art and refine your eye in terms of producing Instagram content that's very artful. Put together a creative team that have some unique abilities. Maybe you have a very different type of photographer, or you have a stylist that's avant-garde. You want to have something different about your content that's telling your story. And number 3, I would say really develop that long-lasting strategy that's related to your overall brand story. I was really fascinated when I met you, Shlomi, because I loved the 3x3 framework that created the kind of meta story that's the classic brand story that's going to stand the test of time. That is something that brands can refer to over and over again. And it's almost subconscious when your audience gets to know it so well that it's like in their bones. But you're going to be able to translate that to a very long performing strategy on a platform like Instagram, because every post is going to form that story over years and years. So play the long game and definitely look at your big overall meta story, and then break that down into individual posts that just make sense to your followers, that create something they want to experience on a daily basis.
No, that's excellent. And thank you, by the way, for the compliment. So
it's genuine. I really think that it's genius.
Thank you. So just to summarize, basically what you're saying is really do a great research, see what other brands are doing in the industry, and then assemble a creative team internally. And one of the things actually I would add to that is a lot of people think they need to be super perfect, and that's the opposite approach. You want to be super authentic, and don't worry about imperfections. Actually, that helps you because it humanizes your message much better.
Yes.
And obviously definitely create a strong meta story that's going to carry over across anything that you do on Instagram. So you have a kind of a thematic approach to go through it. So everybody is looking at your feed will see your distinct style right away. And that's a great differentiator. So that's fantastic. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And just before we close, I know that you're planning to launch a new Instagram storytelling workshop. Maybe you can share a few details about that.
Sure. Well, the Instagram storytelling workshop is kind of designed to help businesses cut down on that learning curve with Instagram. Mm-hmm. So especially with step 1 that I mentioned, the research phase, we're going to bring you a very tailored workshop that's going to bring those examples to you and lay those out and show you and your creative team the differences between a post that's trying to push a product or make a product look cool versus what's that seamless lifestyle type of content that people are going to really resonate with. And that is a simple distinction that can be kind of hard to uncover at first, but once you see it, your creative team's going to go, okay, I understand how to do that now. So we kind of cut the learning curve on developing that Instagram, that artful eye that I was talking about, showing you what's going on in the industries. It's a 1-day workshop, by the way. And then we're also going to give you the key strategies and the latest research on how to plan out your content strategy, how many posts a day, when to post, what you want to be overarchingly doing with the link in your bio on a month-to-month basis. We're going to break it down. So in phase 1, you're going to actually create that meta story using the Visual Storytelling Institute framework. Mm-hmm. In step 2, we're going to show you the difference between kind of old style content and more modern, fresher lifestyle content, give you the opportunity to actually break your meta story into those major themes. And then in the third part, you're going to actually be able to plan your storytelling strategy where you're going to be able to push that content in the most efficient way to try to capture users, grow, see those metrics and those KPIs ongoingly. And then all the boring stuff, all the stuff that you could actually just watch a video and learn from somebody just on a video, mm-hmm. that actually is already recorded on video. And that's something that your whole creative team is going to get after the fact. So you don't have to worry about this being, presentations that people could have just emailed you and you could have watched it on a Saturday. It's a very collaborative, hands-on type of a workshop. And you're going to be able to create content in the workshop, learn how content is created, plan your strategy, and then learn those high-level things that your team needs, with all that supporting documentation being kind of off to the side that you can always go back and reference.
Oh, that's fantastic. Wow.
Yeah, it's going to be a really great 1-day workshop for marketing teams that are that want to just dive into Instagram and get it all done in a single day.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. So now that we know so much about Instagram, about the workshop, how can people contact you about in general and about learning more about the workshop?
Absolutely. I'd love for you to follow us on Instagram at Social Brand School. That's our 6-week online course that we have for business owners. And then also, if you're interested in the workshop for corporations, look at bit.ly/IG storytelling workshop, and you'll find a link to schedule a complimentary discussion with us about it.
Excellent. Yeah. And we're definitely going to include all this information in a blog post in the show notes, and as well as the information from this video, as well as a link to our iTunes and other podcast networks that we're going to syndicate this show. So thank you so much for your time today. It's been a fantastic journey about one of the most exciting platforms to be at these days on Instagram. And I hope to see you soon in our next show. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Shlomi. Have a great day. I really appreciate your time.
Excellent. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Visual Storytelling Today is recorded in Miami, Florida. The show is published exclusively by Visual Storytelling Institute. Learn more at visualstorytell.com. You can subscribe to this podcast on the iTunes Store. Until next time, don't let your big story wait to be told.